On this episode of Purposely Curious, we discuss the Gabby Petito case by looking at domestic violence and other forms of abuse. And we also discuss why Brian Laundrie wasn't brought in for questioning in the first place. All this information is public knowledge, and I just express my opinion. I've learned a lot, so I wanted to discuss certain aspects of this case with you all, so get nice and cozy as this episode starts now. Hello, Leonie.
Konnichiwa, Mary.
Oh, nice. I like that one. How are you?
Good. How have you been?
I've been good. I don't know if you saw, I have a fractured clavicle.
I did. And I have a million questions about that.
Well, don't ask me a million, but you can ask some if you want.
Is it is it limiting your mobility? Like, how deep is it a hairline fracture? Is it a deep fracture? Is it a complete fracture? What's going on with that?
So it's minimally displaced, which means that it's split in a certain, just one section. And so they do feel that it will just heal over time.
Right.
But I have very minimal, mobility, if that makes sense. So the way it happened was I was in Mammoth going on a bike, and I was kind of going with a little bit of some speed, took my right hand off for a split second off the handle, and right away I felt the wobble of the bike, and I knew I was gonna eat shit at that point. I was like, I'm done,
Yeah, I don't understand. Isn't your left hand on it? Aren't you stabilizing?
My left hand was on it, but just think of it if the tire is at that point, because I was going on some speed and I started wobbling.
Okay.
In that split second, I went to grab the handle again, and I don't know for sure, but I think what I probably did was hit the brakes with my right hand as I grabbed it, because everything was happening so fast that I just fell forward and landed on my left side of the body. So the scrapes were everywhere, but I knew something was wrong was because I could not raise my arm forward over my breast area. And when I would move it to the side, I can't go, I couldn't even put on a bra without pain. And then the pain got worse. So I knew it wasn't just a muscle injury. So when they x-rayed me, they saw that I had a fracture. So it hurts still, but it's nothing like it was 2 weeks ago or however long it was a week ago. It was really bad.
Is this your right or left?
Left. Yeah. So
it's opposite. It's opposite because you're right-handed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yeah.
So it's opposite your right. Okay.
Yeah. So I've been I cannot leave the house without a bra. That's just me. So I've been I'm just fuck the bra. It's too much work.
Right.
But I have limited mobility, and I do a follow-up on Tuesday. But the other thing too is because you guys know I have, for those of you who follow me, in a month it was 3 trips already, or it was a lot, that this only made me feel even more tired, and I had already booked Hawaii. So I said I'm gonna fucking go and just not do anything crazy, hopefully, while I'm there. So I just got back, and I kind of feel a little bit, you don't realize how much you take for granted your limbs.
Right. To
where the basic, like I said, I can't move my left arm to if I'm going to tie my bra at the back, I can't do when the women put the hands in the back.
Yeah.
Without my shoulder hurting. And so that's what I'm getting at. It's just the simple things I took for granted.
Right.
So, yeah. But other than that, I'm okay. I know a lot of people.
You are feeling better.
Be
That's
careful.
good.
Yes. Yeah.
This is a good sign that you're healing.
Yes.
No, I mean, obviously that's sort of a fracture that they cannot put a cast on. Usually, if it's more if it's a more in-depth fracture, usually they require surgery for bolts and stuff like that, right? But
yeah,
you lucky. You got lucky, right?
Yeah, I got lucky.
And you were wearing a helmet?
I was not.
Okay.
Yeah, I've learned my lesson. Learned my lesson. It could have been worse.
Yeah, the last thing you want is a head fracture, skull fracture,
Mm-hmm.
That's.
But I've learned my lesson.
No,
so I'm
happy.
Gonna be
I'm so happy you're
using,
okay.
Yeah. So am I. I'm going to be using a helmet even on the beach. Like, I don't give a shit anymore. I learned my lesson.
Yeah. No, it's good.
Yeah.
It's just good to be safe, you know?
Yeah, always. Yeah. And what's new with you?
Just been busy. Been really busy. I submitted, I wrote something from it. It's the very first time in my life I was encouraged to submit a screenplay, and I did. So, exciting. It's, something I've never done before. I had to learn the formatting very quickly. I had to learn the software very, very quickly. And it came a lot easier than I thought it would. Now, is it any good? I don't know. It's for a competition, and if it gets selected, it'll be made into a movie. And
Ooh.
so yeah,
That's exciting.
There's not that many entries, only because there's specific rules to it, and a lot of people, like don't want to partake in the rules, So I don't know. It's exciting. It's something new I tried. It's like I'm not much of a writer. I can write science, but to write fiction, to write screenplay condensed, writing for 10 minutes or for an hour 20, whatever, it's difficult. It's hard, So my hat's off to you if you are a screenwriter and if you write for television or movies, because now I have a newfound appreciation for what you guys do, in terms of how you entertain us. But that's about it. Just tried something new, and it doesn't work. That's great, because I'm going to get mentored on that, and I'm excited about that. Just to learn what goes into it and what do's and don'ts and all that. So, but that's about it. Busy with projects.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I'm excited, and I really hope you win.
That would be wild. Like we'll find out next Friday if I made the cut. If I didn't, that's cool either way. But it was a fun experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got something.
Well, I'm excited.
I got it copyrighted, so it's copyrighted with the Copyright Office. It's registered with the Writers Guild, and there goes my noisy ass car. Sorry.
Don't apologize.
But yeah, so I don't know. We'll see if it turns into something. If not, it was a good experience.
Yes. So we're all sending you positive vibes.
Thank you. I need them.
Yes. Any other things that you were up to?
I got married. But
Duh, you did?
Yeah, but I mean, look, she's in Russia, so I'm not sure when she's gonna come over. So, I mean, I'll send you photos if you want to, I'll tag you in photos and stuff. But no, just kidding. That'll probably be me in 10 years from now. Like, what'd you do? I got married to some Russian girl.
Yeah.
No. That's about it. Just getting ready for the spooky season. It's been really, really busy, and it's about to get 10 times more busier. And that's a good thing, So we'll see how that pans out. But
yeah,
it's gonna be a fun October. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. Halloween's around the corner.
Yeah, good times.
Yes. So, this week I wanted to talk about Gabby Petito. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard of it because everyone's talking about it.
Yes.
And then I do want to talk about the case, but I do want to talk about more so why he's was not brought in, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And the reason, I'm not a lawyer, but let's just talk about the fact that some people are upset that this is getting kind of like a lot of media attention. But before the media picked it up, it was TikTokers that were discussing this case. And so if you guys didn't know, she, has a YouTube channel, Nomadic Static, where she had posted a video of their first cross country through the United States van life, right?
Is that a popular YouTube channel? Like,
I think she had like 100,000 subscribers.
Okay.
Now
That's
her Instagram, it's 1 million followers. Do you get where I'm going at? So what happened is that when people caught on to this information, right? What do people do on TikTok? We've talked about this. We've talked about cold cases. Was it Elizabeth Smart? Cold cases that were literally for 20 years, and then boom, social media comes in. People start deep diving. We've talked about the whole Britney Spears situation, right?
Right.
People start deep diving, people who are just like you or me, or, you know, because a lot of stuff is like public record. So the point is that now we're here, but I know a lot of we do obviously talk about why they didn't bring him in, right? So the timeline is basically as far he came back without her in her van that's legally under her name. So it's her property, right?
Okay, so how old is she? How old are they?
She's 22. I'm not sure how old he is. I'm not 100% sure, but
so she's the social media starlet, and he's
yes,
he's nobody.
He's a nobody, but like her boyfriend, if that makes sense.
Right, or fiance, right, or whatever, right?
Yeah, murderer. In advance, guys,
Yes.
I may cuss a lot because Leonie knows when we did the cult mom timeline, I was like, the bitch killed them, and then now she's in jail, right? But at the time she wasn't.
Yes.
So a lot of time we see CSI, all those shows, right? And they're questioning the suspect. They bring the person of interest in, right?
Right.
And then who comes in after they try to get them to confess? The lawyer comes in and they say, you need to stop talking to my client. This is as far as the interview goes, right?
Right.
So people are like, well, if he was a person of interest, why didn't they bring him in? Because the motherfucker came back by himself September 1st with her car and didn't talk to her family that she was coming back. So we don't know at the time, right? We don't know if she's alive or dead, or if they split and she decided to stay over there.
Right.
But he brought back her van. Now, he lawyered up. So by the time her family, who hadn't heard from her now for 2 weeks, reported her missing, he had already lawyered up. So that's where the constitutional right is, I don't have to say anything. Talk to my lawyer.
Right.
And that's where the cops could not bring him in as a person of interest. And of course, that's guilty as fuck, right? He lawyered up as soon as he came here. And her father, because Gabby's parents are divorced and remarried. He said in an interview, this is not the mom. So in an interview, he basically said when they would ask him about it, he said, you need to speak to my lawyer.
Right.
So he hadn't even told her family. They were engaged. She was living with him. So of course this is shady, right? I'm not saying that he's not guilty. I believe that he is, right? Even though proven until guilt. What is it? Oh my God, I'm getting
innocent
until proven guilty.
Yes.
But you guys see how it is. Now here comes the complexity of this is through several different states, right? So which police department can try this? And okay, until they found her body, it was like on federal land. It's like, okay, we got the feds in now, right? So it's very complex. The issue is the reason why, the biggest thing is why didn't they bring him in is that he lawyered up before she was even reported missing. And so the family, they're shady fucks, right? They are literally playing defensive mode using the rights. And so this is, I think, something for all of us to learn from, right? To me, it's an admission of guilt of some sort.
Oh, yeah, totally.
For sure.
By the way, what state is this in? Is this taking place in what state?
Well, he was in Florida. He went back to Florida, but they were in Wyoming. Okay. Now, if you guys pull up a map,
where does she live, though? Is she also in Florida?
She lived with him. Yeah.
Okay.
She lived with him.
So these are stupid Florida laws, basically. The reason why they can't question him.
No, he lawyered up. They're not. Think of the only way I can explain it is it's your constitutional right. If you have a lawyer, you have to go through the lawyer. And that's the best way I can explain it to you is when you watch these movies or TV shows where the cops are like trying to get info from the suspects and putting pressure. And then, we see it so much where they come in, they're like, I'm the lawyer, my client needs you stop talking, right? But with him, he had a lawyer before they even reported her missing. So he's taking his like Fifth Amendment right, his constitutional right to not talk right off the bat. So he threw that curveball, if that makes sense. versus, hey, we want to bring you in. What do you mean you came back? Where is she? Type of questioning. They couldn't even get to that because he was lawyered up already. So when the police went to talk to him, the lawyer was the one who was there to greet them and say he's choosing not to speak. It's his constitutional right.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I always try to talk about it like movies, like when you see the suspect being questioned and then the lawyer says, okay, the conversation's over. You can't talk to my client, you know, because anything you say will be used against you. So to me, that's admission of guilt.
Right.
But this motherfucker and his family are playing hardball, basically.
Got it.
Yeah. So now they just put a warrant out for him, right? It's a fraud. So he used her. Okay, they couldn't bring him in because they didn't know if she was alive or dead, right?
Right.
They couldn't charge him with anything, excuse me. So he already lawyered up before they realized she was missing. So he's not talking. His family's not talking, right? Except, you know, the lawyer says, you know, he puts little things up there, but they're choosing not to talk. The warrant that they put out today was not for her murder because a lot of things is circumstantial right now, even though it's so fucking obvious. But keep in mind, we have seen, you know, technicalities where they're like, you got this evidence in an illegal way, right?
Right.
So it's inadmissible. So they're at this point, because he lawyered up right off the bat, the feds realize they have to play hardball at this point, if that makes sense. So they're trying to make sure they don't fuck things up.
Right.
So without her body, it's all circumstantial, right? But without her body, they really couldn't charge him with anything. They found the body, you know, they said it's homicide, right? Homicide means someone else took your life, right?
Okay.
It doesn't necessarily mean murder yet. So that's where the autopsy will come in to see, was it strangulation? What was it, right? The form of homicide.
Right.
Which would then pin it on someone else, right? Still doesn't necessarily mean it's him. Although I believe it, guys. People were thinking that they're searching a certain creek. They're searching for evidence. So they know something from her body that's what they're searching for there, if that makes sense.
Yes.
What they noticed was that basically after during the autopsy, they can also find out when did she die, right?
Right.
Could she have died after September 1st? Or did she die before that? They can figure that out. They realized that he used her debit card, her credit card, to take money out, right? On the date of the 30th through the 1st, I believe.
Right.
So they were able to charge him with fraud, probably because I think the autopsy probably said that she was dead before that, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yes.
So now fraud is a federal crime, so they can bring him in. So now there's a warrant for him, and now the resources of the feds is we can bring him in. So, but before they didn't have substantial evidence to bring him in. They could have brought him in as a person of interest, but remember, he lawyered up.
So now that doesn't matter. They can get him on the fraud charges. Exactly. Because they have video proof that's an ATM somewhere or something, I'm sure.
Exactly. So what they're doing in the swamp, I truly believe they're not looking for him. They're looking for, I think, whatever killed her, if that makes sense. Now, when I say this is good for us to learn, it's just to learn that, you know, the cops can bring us all in. We all get intimidated, right? And They can bring us in for questioning, you know, and they tell us we have a right to a lawyer. But in that moment, they're questioning us. This motherfucker lawyered up before her family, not him, supposed fucking fiance, right, reported her missing. It was her family. So he had already lawyered up, you know?
Right.
So to me, I feel like I'm learning a lot from a legal standpoint. And so his family is playing hardball. The other thing too is, you know, the parents are look shady. They're doing shady stuff. I don't know. I'm learning a lot. Like, this is definitely something to learn from. And I also wanted to bring up on, when you go on her Instagram, right? She looks happy. Really, really happy.
Okay.
They obviously had a toxic relationship. Another thing that really frustrated me is that they had called the police, and the audio was brought out where they basically had an altercation, and the caller, the woman, literally says he was hitting her, slapping her, and then hit her. Like, he hit her and put her in the car, right? When the cops stopped them for erratic driving, she basically was crying, and a lot of people have seen the video. What it comes down to is I learned a lot about, have you heard of reactive abuse?
No, I'm not familiar with the term.
Okay, so I wasn't either. So reactive abuse is almost like the person who's manipulating you. You have a toxic relationship, where it's almost like she says in the video she didn't want him to leave her behind because he didn't want her to get in the car,
Okay.
But the reactive abuse is basically like, let's say I'm beating you up, Leonie. I'm just beating you up, being an asshole, manipulating you, blah, blah, blah. And then you react and beat me up, right?
Okay.
So then when the cops come, it's almost like then I'm calm. And you're not lying when you say, yeah, you scratched me. You get what I mean?
Yes.
And so that's what they're saying, where they were saying that they need to educate police officers more on these kind of types of abuse. So we think of manipulation, we think of, the main 6, which is like financial, emotional, but beyond that, there's subdivisions of it. And I didn't realize, and it makes sense when I read reactive abuse, because I myself was learning that, right? Let me see if I can get the exact meaning, because I feel like I'm just ranting.
No, it makes sense what you're saying. I mean, it's not a term I've heard before. That's why I don't know how it works. But it almost sounds like two parties are involved, and every time that police show up when something like that, it gets really complicated because they usually, at least look, LAPD. Okay, that's all I can speak for. LAPD. Whoever's got the marks, that's who they're taking in the other person. Whoever put the marks on them. You know what I'm saying? And
exactly.
And women or men, they don't care. Husband or wife, they'll take the wife, they'll take the husband, they don't care. So that's why I'm always like, wow, like, was it self-defense? Was it self-inflicted? Are they fake? Like, what's the deal? But that's what they do. They just take you away and they sort it out later. So that's why I'm really interested in this term.
Yeah, so that's what I learned. So exactly what it was. So it says, during an act of abusive violence, it is common for an abused person to lash out toward their abuser. They may scream, cry, use insults, or even physically defend themselves against an attack. In turn, an assailant may retaliate against them by claiming that the victim is in fact the abuser. And so what a lot of people who had been in relationships that had domestic violence, they all clearly were like, this is reactive abuse. And I was like, well, what is that? So I looked it up. So in the video, she's basically, they're called, the calls that the police got, because there was more than one, was he was beating her and she would hit back, right?
Right.
What do you do? I have not, thankfully, been in an abusive relationship, but what do you do when someone's hitting you? How do you defend yourself? Or, do you just take it? So she reacted by scratching him, trying to defend herself and maybe hurt him back, right?
Right.
So in this video of the police, it turns into, did you scratch him? Why would you want to hurt him? And the police were very nice. And she's crying. She obviously looks scared. And she took the blame for all of it. Every single thing. And he was calm, right? Collective. So in the end, based on the reactive abuse, the goal of the abuser is to make you look crazy, right?
So do you think that you think there's just a pattern of this going on for a long time, that she's
do think so,
just like, I'm going to protect him. Like, yeah, he's an asshole. And I hate him, but the police are here and I'm going to protect them because, you know.
Yeah, that's probably what it was. And also in the video, he lies and the police don't catch it, where he says he doesn't have his cell phone. And then like 5 minutes later, because it's like an hour long,
Okay.
he's holding a cell phone. Like,
Jeez.
yes. So that to me, for me, it was a learning. This has been very, because everyone, and I'm talking about everyone being like people like me, and people are just discussing it and the legalities of it.
Right.
I'm learning about reactive abuse because I'm not trained in that. You know what I mean? I go to
Right.
people's homes. I've seen crazy shit, right? But I never knew there was such a thing. Like, so I'm learning myself as a registered nurse that goes into people's homes that looks for abuse. I mean, I'm not constantly looking for it, but I know the signs of elder abuse, and you know what I mean? So I didn't even know this was a form of abuse. And then I'm also learning, why did they not bring him in as a person of interest? Well, because he lawyered up, you know, and I obviously a lot of us don't realize that we don't have to talk to cops, right?
Right.
But because we are like good citizens, or we freak out or get nervous, right? We start talking, you know, maybe talk more than we need to, or, you know, whatever the case.
Right.
But it is our right to not speak. But we always speak, you know what I mean? I'm not, you know, I don't know if I'm making sense, but
Yeah, you don't have to cooperate. I mean, they would like you to cooperate, but everything you say gets pulled into the court of law. You know, it's evidence. So you
yeah,
could easily slip up and say the wrong thing, and they'll hold it against you, and that could be the end of you. You know,
exactly.
that's why
And
lawyers
that's
always say don't say anything. You know.
exactly. But this fool was ahead of the game because he lawyered up as soon as he got here, and then never talked about it to anyone. Well, I'm assuming his parents, because his parents are in the mix, right?
Yeah.
But the cops didn't come and see him as a person of interest until her family said she was missing. It was she was living with them, with his parents and him. And for 11 days, they did not say she was missing. It had to be her family. So that gave them 11 days or however many days to plot or whatever.
Right.
Plot and get the lawyer that's basically told them, you just don't say shit and everything goes through me. And that's how he got away. So now we have a warrant for fraud for that. And
Right.
trust me, they're building the case. I know they are. But they also see that they have to be, this lawyers, you know, this family and this lawyers are playing hardball. So I think this is going to be taught in law schools, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Very interesting. My thing is, where would they try him? If it's a federal case, would it be anywhere?
Federal court. Whatever. Doesn't matter what city or state, because it's federal.
Okay, thank you. I needed that clarification. I was like, what?
I am looking at his Instagram, which I believe is the correct one.
What do you see?
I'm just profiling by what I see and my interpretation.
And you being a horror fanatic, what do you see?
I see a hippy dippy who's just, I mean, clearly it's just like, take a hike every day. Bug bites are better than being brainwashed by the media. Okay, so he has conspiracy on his mind. And then he says, nature enthusiast, taking on van life. Okay, there's a lot of like living in the wild type things. Now, what stuck out to me was his latest entry. Of course, if you want to see the comments, they're very entertaining because, of course, nobody's, like, hey, nice photo. Everybody's like, dude, just tell us where her body is, they're trying to solve the case,
Mm-hmm.
But his latest entry, he is at, oh my God, Moab, Utah. And he's hiking, okay? And he's at the edge of these rocks. And I'm thinking, wow, that's pretty ballsy. Like, I wouldn't hike that edge, that's stupid, like you slip and you fall and you're dead probably,
Mm-hmm.
Cool sights though. But what stuck out to me is he's not wearing shoes. Like when you hike rocks at the edges of cliffs that are hundreds of feet up, that's one thing you kind of don't do,
Mm-hmm.
Like you need support. You need to have some kind of shoes on because So I don't know. These photos, it kind of tells me he's not all there. Like there's something probably not right with him,
Yeah.
Like he's, too secure with himself in the sense of like, oh, me in the wilderness, look, we're cool, we're one and the same and all that, whatever. So if he knows that lifestyle very, very well, like my question is, did he easily just pushed her, like to get rid of her?
Well, that's what we don't know. Where they found her body is there's not a cliff there.
Oh.
But that's what we don't know yet. How she died?
Because they found her in Wyoming, right, at the Grand Tetons,
yes.
Right?
Now, why did they find her? A lot of people go missing in national forests.
Yes.
You guys, there's documentaries. There's a lot of conspiracy theories. Yep. It is the only reason they found her was because a fellow YouTuber was, again, now things were on TikTok. YouTubers were talking about it, making videos on it, right? And it just went viral, right?
Yeah.
Now the media picked it up. They thought, oh, wow, that's so weird. We were just out there. And they were editing their YouTube video. When they edited their YouTube video, they noticed that there was a van that looked just like the one they were looking for, right? Or that looked like hers. And it happened to have the stickers, the same exact fucking stickers. Wow. And they reported it to the FBI, a YouTuber. And that's where they found the body.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So,
because if not, they would have not have found her. It would have been.
There's no cliffs or anything.
Not where the body was found. So, there's cliffs around, but the body was kind of like near a little river. But what I'm getting at is that apparently,
like you would not have you would not have a defense that would say like, well, she slipped and fell, and then,
I don't know. So that's where we still don't know publicly the form of homicide. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's where we're going to find out, I'm sure. The issue is that at the moment they found her body, they started searching that lagoon that you keep seeing. So I do believe they're looking for a weapon or evidence.
Right.
They're not, if they thought he was dead, they would not be putting out a warrant for him. Her parents, you remember I said they're both divorced and remarried, were on the news all the fucking time, every fucking day, making pleas when she was missing. He's supposedly, quote unquote, missing. The parents, if you see his parents, they don't look like they're out there searching for him, trying to talk to the media, come back home, because they know he's alive.
Yeah, he's probably in the bedroom. I mean,
or the attic. Yeah, but they finally searched his house when they got a warrant. Now, keep in mind, guys, that it's not like, you need substantial reason to get a warrant. So it's not very... I think a lot of people, we think of Hollywood, this shit's going to happen quick, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? But I think because of the complexity of the case with different states, right? And then the fact that they lawyered up made it a lot harder. And so it was harder for them to get the warrant to go in without probable cause. Right. Other than she's missing, right? So I don't know if you know, basically after they found her body and it was determined that it was homicide, the ball really started flowing, because now you have something to grab onto legally so that the lawyer doesn't come back and on a technicality, right?
Right.
Get him off. So the way they're bringing him in is with this warrant because he committed fraud, which is a federal crime, right? Right. And that tells me that they know for sure she died before the 30th of August. Because it wasn't like, oh, is it him? Or is it her that was using it, right? Because before they didn't know when she died. So I think they know that for a fact.
So between
and they probably have video of him trying to extract the money as well.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Between that and then the autopsy will pretty much tell them a window of when she died. And they'll correlate that with the ATM transactions or any credit card use, anywhere he's caught on camera.
Yeah. And you and I have talked about Casey Anthony.
Yes.
Everyone believes that she is guilty, yet she got off.
Right.
So I think this is where the law, it's going to be one of those cases that people are going to be talking about and maybe trying to see how this lawyer that he's using is going to play the game. Because that's really what it is right now. It's a fucking game. And so I'm really curious. And I just wanted to talk about the fact that, I think he's guilty, but he's definitely playing defensive. You know what I mean? Hasn't said anything incriminated because he lawyered up before she even was reported missing, right? And then, it also broke my heart to see a lot of people just kind of discuss the fact that in that video of the police, she was made to be the aggressor, the abuser, when the phone calls from the other people were he was the abuser.
Right.
And so I know, that's something that we should try to educate ourselves, He was gaslighting the cops. And she came off as the abuser, the aggressor, because she did scratch him.
Right.
She did scratch him. And so I've learned reactive abuse.
Yeah, but that's, self-defense, and I mean, he brainwashed her to the point of it's like, you know what? If you call the cops, they're going to take you to jail, and then, we're not going to be together, and then nobody's gonna love you like I love you. You gotta understand that there's nobody out there but me. Nobody loves you like, and women believe that.
Mm-hmm.
I know because I dated one. And
did you?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Ruined her for life. Trust me, she's still not okay, and this is years now. And it's sad because, we try to have a relationship, and it's like we can't because her ex did a number on her,
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I look at these type of relationships and I'm like, I don't understand. And mind you, even women that I know, like friends, that I highly respect and, always think of like strong women, like, they're single moms or just, single women who are career oriented, goal oriented, did a lot of great things in life. And they end up in these fucked up relationships with guys where, I mean, look, pretty boy, cute, handsome, hot, whatever, hot sex, whatever. Then they show who they really are, abusive, and they fall for it so hard that they accept it and they apologize for the abuse. They're like, I'm sorry, I won't do that again. I'm sorry, whatever you want, whatever, I'll do whatever, I'll change, I promise. And it's like, fuck, I'm like, you're in a bad relationship. Like, you need to get out, And I kind of fear that this is what this case is about. This Gabby Petito girl. I think that's, like, she got sucked in, and she's young. She was what, 22 or whatever. She's young,
Yeah.
and I bet you he's a little bit older. Like, I bet you he's in his mid or late 20s, and easily mind fucked her. Like, just took advantage of her, and probably gaslighted the whole situation every day, all the time. And that's why when the police showed up, she's probably, wanted to take the blame or whatever, just so he wouldn't be taken away, and
yep.
And it's like,
and she didn't want to press charges, right?
And then it's, what do you end up with? You end up dead. Like, you end up dead. That's the end game. You end up dead because abusive people, man, you eventually will push you'll push their buttons too far, If you're fighting all the time and then eventually your thoughts become rage, and then your thoughts become, I'll fucking push you off, I'll poison you, or I'll shoot you in the face, whatever. That's what happens,
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, it's sad, but it's not, everywhere, but weird cases like that pop out in weird states like Florida, or, because, when you look at the case closer, and then you realize, oh, they've been at it for 10 years. And I'm like,
yeah,
why be in a toxic relationship for that long? Like, that's how it ends, like, there's no happy ending. People don't change, like abusive behavior like that. Like, you need counseling for years. You don't magically become like a nice guy overnight.
Yeah. I just remembered the case of the little boy who was killed.
Social workers?
Yeah, not social workers. The social workers didn't kill him.
But I mean,
the parents.
It's the one where they're being prosecuted because they didn't do anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the cops also there had been calls again, and I just had this flashback. If you guys watch the documentary, it's on Netflix. They had called again. The police show up, and instead of talking to the child, they talked to the fucking mom, and she gaslighted the fuck out of them.
Of course.
And that's what, when you watch this, you're just like, why did the cops not say, I need to see the child, I need to speak to the child alone? And that's kind of what they're saying for her as well, is why didn't they say, like, they, and this goes for me as a nurse too, right? We need more training to be able to see these things, and it's almost like maybe because they see so much, they just like take the word of the person who's being accused or whatever.
Right.
But that was one of the things I was upset about. There was so many failures there's so many failures in this case, and there were so many failures with him, the little boy, but also the police didn't speak to him at that point. So I feel like definitely we have to start talking about domestic violence more, whether it's the man or the woman, because women do it too.
Yeah.
Right. And talk about these things because, you know, we live in a time of social media, right?
Yeah.
So I was posting my trips last year, and, you know, I was depressed because of COVID, but I posted happy pictures, right?
Yes.
Like, so it goes the same for these situations. And I feel like sometimes I want my niece, you know, who's just turned 18, and is just starting college, to be able to know the red flags. You know what I mean? But I feel like all of us are believing what's being posted, and who knows how long he had been beating her up, you know? That I think we all need a refresher course. And the nice thing about social media is that there's so many people out there that are mental health advocates or social workers, right? Who are putting this content out there, whether it's Instagram or TikTok or Twitter or YouTube, where they explain these terms, you know, in an easy way for us to understand, right? So I had no idea what reactive abuse was. And then when I looked it up, and then they were discussing how that's clearly what they're seeing, but unfortunately they're not the cops, right? That it was overlooked. And, you know, they had her sleep in her van and they put him in a hotel room. So, I don't know.
You know, there's a notable case. You know, Jeffrey Dahmer, right?
Yes.
Do you remember the case where he was living in the Wisconsin apartment and he was taking in young boys? And this is like, he took in a couple young boys, and one of them was he was a young black boy, innocent boy. He took him in. He lured him in, and then eventually it's kidnapping, right? Because he was holding him, right? Mm-hmm. And I think he tied him up or whatever. And, you know, this kid's like, the kid knew he was going to be raped and killed and cut up into pieces and put in the freezer. He knew that, you know. He escaped. Somehow he escaped, okay? Mm-hmm. But keep in mind, he's not wearing a shirt. The boy's not wearing a shirt. He escaped. He ran from the apartment, down the block, a couple blocks away, whatever, into the arms of a police officer, okay? And he told the police officer, this man, you know, kidnapped me. He's trying to kill me, you know, whatever, right? And and the police officer, you know, what does he do? He takes the boy back to Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment. Okay.
Oh my God.
Mind you, Jeffrey Dahmer is a white fucking dude. This is a black boy. Okay. He takes him back to the apartment, and Jeffrey Dahmer charmed the pants off the police officer. You know, oh, I'm so sorry, officer. This is my nephew. You know, I really apologize for his behavior. You know, please, I really, you know, oh, sorry, sir. Didn't mean to, you know, ruin your, you know, interrupt your evening, but I'm glad he's home safe. You know, have a good evening. He brought the boy back to Jeffrey Dahmer. The boy fucking died. He abused and raped that boy, and cut him up. He killed him. That police officer is living with like some serious shit, you know, knowing that he brought that kid back, you know? And it's like, again, somebody who's got psychotic behavior, you know, sociopathic, manipulative behavior, you know, you become an expert at that if you do it long enough. You know, I think that's what this guy was doing to this poor girl, you know?
Yeah.
That he, you know, he made her believe that he was the world to her. And, you know, she believed it. Because, you know, it's like, I'll love you forever and ever, and nobody's gonna love you like me. And it's like, No, girl, you're 22. You have 20 more years of dating if you want. You know, it's like you could find somebody better or figure out if he's the one. Like what's going on, you know? But it happens. It's a sad story. It happens. And I'll guarantee you, and this is so sad, Mary, I guarantee you there's somebody listening to this podcast, your podcast, right now who is going through this and thinking, fuck, I'm in a toxic relationship.
Yeah. And the thing too is my first boyfriend, like, I'm not here to talk shit about him, but we were very toxic. Like, we would fight, and like I'm a lot calmer now, so I like to discuss things, you know what I mean? But at the time, that to me was normal. He was my first love, right?
Yeah.
So apparently they were high school sweethearts, so she didn't know any better. She probably thought that was normal. And word around town, and what kids are saying is that they had a toxic relationship. The issue is that it gets worse over time. Once it gets physical, there's no going back.
Right.
And unfortunately, you know, I mean, they can say, we don't know if he did it. Everything he's fucking done is straight up guilt admission to me. You know, and then when I saw her biological father, because you would see the mother holding her picture with her now husband doing press conference after press conference. They did not let up every fucking day. They wanted it on the media, right? The dad who lives he actually moved to Florida, gave the interview, and he said when he was like, dude, just tell me what happened. Like, I just want to know where my daughter is. They literally were like, you need to speak to my lawyer.
Jeez.
So, yeah. And so, again, I just wanted, I know this case is controversial for a lot of people, and I understand why. But I also wanted to say the reason I think it went viral, because that's another issue we got to deal with, right?
Right.
Is why there are a lot of people that are missing, but there is no, you know, there's not enough media coverage. We honestly just need to use our tools. If the media is not going to cover it, social media is the way to go, and be relentless, right? But I know there's a lot of this. There's a lot that comes with this case, and that being one of them. What did someone call it? Missing white woman syndrome or something like that. Yeah. So there's a lot of complexities, but I wanted to more so talk about the stuff that I'm learning from a legal standpoint. Why they didn't bring him in if he was a person of interest. Well, it's because he was already lawyered up, versus if they brought him in, they can get him to say something that would incriminate him. And now that they have found her body, they understand that's his constitutional right. You have a right to remain silent and not say shit. And they read you that when they tell you, right? But now they were like, well, I do believe they have the time of death probably, and that's why they were able to get him on fraud with her money, right?
Right.
And the whole abuse, to see young people dealing with abuse, physical abuse, and to know that we as professionals also need to start brushing up on those things, and so that we could see it, and that we can continue to educate people of the different types of abuse, right?
Yeah.
And why we act the way that we do. And so maybe if we do see it, whether it's police officers, whatever, we don't allow this to continue. And you know, what is his name? I forgot his beautiful soul's name. The little boy. I forgot his name. That one I cried, but the police also didn't think to speak to the child. They spoke to the mom, who basically gaslighted the whole situation.
Yeah.
So I do believe that I'm gonna learn a lot, and I'm sure whoever wants to follow this further is gonna learn a lot of the technical law back and forth that's gonna happen when they bring him in, if they bring him in alive. And two, you know, I think it's time to brush up on educating ourselves on the forms of abuse.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
I think you were thinking of Gabriel Fernandez, right?
Thank you. Yeah. Oh my God. Thank you. You guys should watch that documentary. If you want to see how this poor boy was failed, you know, on so many levels. And so the other thing we talked about how this story went viral, and it was because a lot of YouTubers and TikTokers were just running with it and trying to figure it out themselves, right?
Right.
If you guys have not seen the movie Don't Fuck with Cats,
Right.
this was before TikTok. But basically they practically solved the case for the police from different countries. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so what this true crime community is, and I have mentioned it in a former episode, is, you know, they're finding shit like what happened in our, what was it, January 6th here in the States. The FBI went straight to the public saying, you know, can you help us find these people? And sure enough, social media went at it and they started arresting people.
Right.
So it's something that, you know, shouldn't be taken for granted. And I do believe, although it sucks for the police because they're probably like, damn, you know, they're solving the cases for us, you know, and was it Elizabeth Smart where they just arrested them in San Pedro,
Yeah.
20 or 10 years later because of social media and a podcast, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I just wanted to this is for me why it came on my radar a while ago. And I just, I think we could hopefully, the community is growing as far as true crime stuff like that. So I feel like a lot of people are using their platforms to help in these cases. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, maybe they shouldn't butt in, but the family for, the cold case where they arrested the guy and his father, right?
Right.
They're probably appreciative that these TikTokers and podcasters took it up and did a deep dive, because that's the only way they got an arrest. So that's some fucking form of closure. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it can go both ways, but I feel, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, I think I'm done. Any other input you might have?
No, but it made me think of something you mentioned earlier, and there was a really, really good guest I heard once on the radio, and he was discussing, and he's a FBI like crime profiler, and he was talking about the mysteries as to why people go missing in our national parks, and here I was thinking like, oh, this show is going to be about, some chupacabra, something weird, right? Or some, but it's like, no, it turns out that they were strictly focusing on murders and serial killers and abusive relationships, that kind of stuff. People that dump bodies, and the numbers are crazy. Like that particular year, and this might have been 3 years ago when I heard this, he was like, in any given day, there's 800 people missing in our national parks. That's a lot. That's a lot. And and the theory is that, like, when society fails certain people, or they're just not brought up well, they become serial killers, that they move to these locations, they move to the cabin in the woods, they move to the edge of the desert, and they prey on those single people that go like, oh, I'm going to go mountain biking, by myself, 32 miles, or I'm going to go, skiing by myself. And it's like, they prey on them. And those are the ones that go missing all the time. So just to sum that up, his thing was never go to these parks alone, like, I don't care what paradise you think you're in and how safe and quiet it is. He's like, there's somebody watching. There's somebody who saw you drive up. There's somebody who's following you from 5 miles away. They know exactly where you are, and they're just waiting because that's where they live. They know that's their backyard, and that really, really scared me. I was like, oh, damn, that's crazy. Like, I never think of that, I think of my time when I went up to White Mountain at 14,200 feet and camped up there for 5 days. It was peaceful. It was heaven. It was cold. We're camping in the snow, but I never once did it occur to me that, I could be watched, or followed. And mind you, I was not alone. I was with a team of biologists, it was like 20 of us, but it made me think, because I am the type that would just go away by myself. Like, I'm saying that I have no problem. I'm like, look, I'm a big guy, and as nice as you think I might be, like, I will cut your spine out with a plastic spork if I have to. Like, I'm saying, I will do whatever it takes to defend myself or my loved ones or friends, like the mean guy comes out, but still what does that mean when somebody's going to shoot you or stab you, when you least expect it? It means nothing, somebody catches you off guard, defenseless, like if you survive, you're lucky, but yeah, it's so crazy. I'm gonna have to dig deeper and get back to you on the guy's name, because he's an expert in that field, and it really shocked me how many people go missing. And I was just like, that's scary, like that's crazy, and in this case, looking at this Laundrie guy's Instagram, he's a wilderness guy. He's out there all the time at these parks, Yeah. So he knows, the ins and outs. Like I don't. Like you and I probably don't. Like we visit them once, a few times a year or whatever. But we're not experts, right? We're not. We don't know what it's like to hike there in the winter or whatever. And this guy might, because he's been doing this for a while. So maybe he just picked the perfect, or maybe the worst spot to kill her. And if they're holding that evidence, we're going to find that out in the court of law if he's captured. If he's not captured and turns up dead, then they're going to release the reports soon, I'm sure, and tell us what happened to that poor girl. But otherwise, we're not going to know till that trial goes on, and it might not be for years,
Yeah. And, the lawyers are going to try to find technicalities and stuff, too.
Of course, yeah.
And I think that's why you see the game right now between the feds and his family. But one more thing, I'm glad that you brought that up. So I found during this whole thing, have you heard of the zone of death?
In Mexico?
No. So basically, there is a 50-mile radius of land that is basically in the section of the Idaho section of the Yellowstone National Park.
Oh, okay.
Right? So I only found this out because people, again, in this true crime world online, right, were saying, what if he killed her and left her there? And then he can't be charged. And I was like, well, what do you mean you can't be charged?
Right.
So basically, if you guys look up the zone of death, is basically this 50-mile radius that's basically between two states, or like the national park, but it's not part of the park. And so what it says here is, let me read this. The United States District Court for the District of Wyoming is currently the only United States District Court to have a jurisdiction over parts of multiple states. This is because its jurisdiction includes all of Yellowstone National Park, which extends slightly beyond Wyoming's boundaries into Idaho and Montana. In addition, the federal government has exclusive jurisdiction over the park, so crimes committed in the park cannot be prosecuted under the state's laws. So this 50-mile section, right? They have to be federal. So the trials in the district court are normally held at federal courthouses in Wyoming. However, the Sixth Amendment of the United States Constitution decrees that juries in the federal criminal cases must be made up of citizens who are from both the district and the state where the crime was committed. So because of this, charges for a crime that are alleged to have been committed in that park of 50 miles in Idaho would have to be tried before a jury consisting of residents of that 50-mile area. But it sounds like
Nobody's there, yeah.
Nobody's there.
Okay,
and so it was
crazy.
discovered as a loophole by Michigan State University law professor, right? Brian Laundrie, while he was planning to write an essay about technicalities of the Sixth Amendment. Now, remember I was saying it comes down to technicalities?
Right.
Which entitles criminal defendants to a fair and quick trial. Now, I had never heard of this until I started looking into the true crime Gabby Petito information out there online. So people were saying because she was they were headed to Yellowstone, people were like, well, what if he did kill her?
Yes.
Because she's missing, and he did it in the zone of death, knowing he cannot be fucking prosecuted. And I was like, what? That doesn't make sense. So I Googled it, and sure enough, it's the 50 miles where you can kill somebody and not be prosecuted.
That's so crazy.
Yeah,
That's
I know.
wild.
Yeah, so I'm telling you, I'm learning so much just from this community.
And what if he tried to get there with her,
Yeah, we don't know. But again, he may have never heard of it, but
Right.
now a lot of us are, I mean, I'm mentioning it here, but I didn't know about it, but people had talked about it. That what if, like what if he did this? And I was like, what do you mean he can get away with it? So now the zone of death, Yellowstone.
That's crazy.
No, yeah, it is very crazy. So, but yeah, that's it. And I guess we will see what happens with this case. I think now with this warrant out, a lot's going to happen very quickly. And I do believe that we should take the time to use our platforms, whatever they are, to find people, that maybe don't have it. Remember before it was like the milk cartons?
Right.
So we definitely, someone out there should start, maybe doing a podcast. You see that, like what, they still have shows on TV for missing and stuff.
Right.
So I know it's thousands and thousands of people all the time. So, but it should be interesting to learn the technicalities of the law. And, like I said, we got to keep an eye out for abusive behavior, whether it's a woman or a man. And the different forms of it, right?
Yeah.
And be advocates for ourselves, or for those abused. So, yeah, that's it for me. But thank you, Leonie, for joining me.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And I have to just tell you this, sayonara.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you for joining us this time, guys, and we will see you guys next time. Bye. That was episode 73 of the Purposely Curious podcast. Make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on most podcast platforms, and follow us on social media at Purposely Curious on Instagram and at Purposely C Pod on Twitter. That's Purposely, the letter C, Pod. Until next time, you know what to do.